Welcome back to the launch party. And I am here with Dr. Zoe. And we were just talking. She was one of my very first podcast interviews. And it was a while ago. And we
It
had a
was.
really good conversation. So I wanted to make sure to say thank you, number one, for making me feel
Of course.
comfortable. And, having such a great conversation with you around this topic. And so I would love for you to share a little bit about, who you are and what you do. And then Dr. Zoe, I call her Zoe, but Dr. Zoe, she also did an endorsement for the book. So she did take a look at the book and wrote an endorsement. So um, share a little bit about who you are and then maybe a takeaway that you think would be helpful for people to understand a little bit more about the book if they haven't already heard enough about it. So
Absolutely. Well, first, congratulations. Many congratulations. This is a huge accomplishment. So many people who have stories to share, and so many writers don't get to this point. So, congratulations. I loved having you on my podcast. It was such a wonderful interview, and I got a lot of really great feedback from it because a lot of women are struggling with their identity, their self esteem, eating issues, so many of the things that you talk about. So I was honored to endorse the book, and I'm excited to share this book with my clients because I have plenty of them that will really benefit and be blessed by your book. I think the thing that has really resonated with me, and the big takeaway that I took from your book, and I know that other people will, is how you shared your story in a way that so many women will be able to see themselves in it. And as I was talking to you before, a lot of people, a lot of experts, a lot of professionals who are trying to help women sometimes share their story in such a way that they still look like they kind of have it all together. And women can look at them and go, well, yeah, your advice is good. The stuff that you say is really good, but I'm not sure that I can do that because I don't think you get where I came from.
mhm.
And I have no doubt that any woman reading your book is going to be able to get where you came from and feel a sense of camaraderie with you, and then know if she can do it, I can do it. So that's that I feel is the takeaway from your book, and I feel that it's so powerful and so important, especially for any woman who is struggling in the body image, realm.
And we do look at women in our areas with pre with assumptions. She must have it
Yes,
all together, right?
yes.
And that I think that that's something that we can all step back and notice. How do we show up for other people, and are we making assumptions about where they came from,
Mm,
right?
right,
And
right.
realizing that everybody has a story, no matter what size body they're in, right?
Correct.
Everybody has a story, and to how can we show compassion around everyone's
Yes.
everyone's presentation.
And I think that that's the gift that I've gotten as a therapist, is that I see the world through that lens, because not only does everybody have a story, but everybody has a thing. And I've
Mhm.
said this before, everyone has something that they are struggling with, no matter across all socioeconomic, ethnicity, whatever, wherever they are, everyone has a thing. And it's hard because we imagine sometimes that, we're the only ones that have this thing. And that thing you have might be unique to you, but somebody else has something different and they're struggling with it. So that is a lens that I think has been a gift for me to see that. And I think that it's great that you've been able to write from that point of being vulnerable enough to share your thing. There's been a lot of sayings about, the power and vulnerability, right?
Mm.
And how when you're able to do that, even if you're not talking about the specific thing that somebody else has gone through, they can still see their struggle and your story, and it still will resonate with them.
Yeah, it's the words and the way we see ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
as you said, it doesn't really matter where you're coming from, we
Right.
see ourselves with a certain lens. And
Absolutely.
I always
Yeah.
think about if the people that we work with, or we, as far as clients or whatnot, if they could see what we see, wouldn't that be a
Hmm.
wonderful thing? But
Yeah.
that they have to see that, right? And
Right.
that's the work. One of the things that I think is really, I just to give a little plug for you, because I think it's such a great little book. It's that Self-Care, Year of Self-Care, because once we give ourselves permission to actually take some time for ourselves, it kind of opens the door to give ourselves permission maybe to treat ourselves better in other ways as well. So the self-care can be sometimes an easier avenue before we start to talk nice to ourselves or treat ourselves nicely with food or movement or any of those other things. So just share a touch of that book, and then we'll kind of come back to a couple of other things. So
Yeah, you know what? That was a beautiful illustration that you said, that sometimes that's the first step, is caring for ourselves a little bit before we even have enough belief to say the nice things, right? To say the nice things to ourselves. And that's a CBT thing, kind of the acting as if, but I wrote that book, A Year of Self-Care, and it really is an entire year of skills, exercises, affirmations to help you take care of yourself in all the seasons of your life, and
mm,
or all the seasons of the year.
mm,
And it's one a day, and you can read it in 5 minutes, and any exercises can be done within just a few minutes. And it's just really just like a mothering of yourself.
mm,
Um, I I rarely have sessions where some of the answers to the things we're talking about don't have anything to do with self-care, right? It's really all
yeah,
about figuring out, how can I care for myself better so that I can show up for myself and for my people in the
right.
best way. So that's why I was excited to write the book.
Yeah, and I know that you have plans for some other things too. Your podcast has shifted a little too,
It has,
and
yes.
it has to do again with how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world, which is, if we're taking care of ourselves, we will show up differently. It's that
Correct.
cup that's empty, or is it half full or full? And how do we show
Right.
up in the, as we step into relationships, or new jobs, or, new seasons, things that happen in the world, all of those things, right? So
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
share your new journey and where it's headed, and a little bit about that?
Yes. So my podcast has been rebranded. The name is Stronger in the Difficult Places. And
Mm,
I really have niched down, and I'm focusing on women in difficult relationships, but it is through the lens of fixing yourself. So my tagline is, we're not fixing them, we're fixing you. And that changes everything.
mm,
And I love that, because that's what I teach women how to do, is how to show up stronger in their relationships, and the ripple effect, it changes their lives, it changes all of their experience in relationships. And so that's the angle that I'm working from, and I love it, because a lot of times people come to therapy and they want to change somebody else, and they feel like they're stuck in their life because this other person won't do whatever, right,
mhm,
or show up the way they need to. And when I can help people take ownership, that no, your focus should not be on fixing and changing other people in your life, it's you. When you shift and change, your life changes.
right, right. And
Yeah.
I think taking ownership, thinking about taking responsibility for our own actions, and
Right,
how
right.
our actions,
Or lack of
or
actions.
lack of actions, right?
Right.
And how there's a
Yeah.
mirror effect, right, as
Mhm.
well. What's one of the things that you would say to people out there about what's something that they could do for themselves that would help them, not only with their relationships, but with them, like with how they show up in the world?
Hmm. You know, when it comes to relationships, some of the biggest issues are about expectations, is we expect the people in our lives to be somebody they aren't. And then
Mm,
we go about walking out this relationship with them and having anger and disappointment when they are showing up as they are, right?
mm,
And so if I'm just going to give one little, piece of advice, I would say, look at this person who you're in relationship with, and ask yourself, Am I okay with who they are today? Not my idea, my fantasy of who I want them to be if I fix them and if they change, but who they are today. Because if the answer is no, then maybe there's something you need to shift in yourself, right?
Hmm.
Or maybe you don't need to be in relationship with this person.
Right.
But we're hurting ourselves by continuing to expect people to be different. And it's not fair to them either.
Right.
So that's, that would be kind of one little shift when it comes to relationships. And then I think when it comes to yourself, I think we need to own who we are. We need
Mm.
to look at the things that sometimes we're scared to look at about who we are and admit to ourselves, this is who I am. How is this benefiting me? Maybe I'm messy. Maybe I'm a messy person. I have difficulty keeping my house clean. How is this benefiting me? Maybe it gives me 10 extra hours a month because I don't clean and I can use those things. And maybe that's a good thing, and how is it not benefiting me? Is it worth changing? Because a lot of times we run into change without really looking at the benefit of the way we were doing things, because we
Mm.
do things for a reason,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so when you want to change something, you first have to look at, how is this first benefiting me? Because that sometimes keeps us from being able to actually enact the change. And then maybe we can realize, okay, maybe it's not that important to me to change.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah,
because it's more like a value system too, right?
absolutely.
Where does
Yeah.
this fall on my values? Is it important
Mhm.
for me to change this, or might there be something else?
Right.
And thinking
Right.
about change and how change is so hard, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
we have to kind of be willing to step into
Right.
change. But that's a
Right.
great question to ask yourself. Is this helping me and supporting me? And
How
is
is
this
it
really
benefiting me?
important? Yeah, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
absolutely. And how is it maybe not?
Exactly. Both.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think one of the things that people can really take from working with you or talking with you is this: who am I? And stepping into looking at themselves through the lens that you look at them from, right? And you have
Mhm.
this experience to see where people are coming from, along with just a kind of a compassionate lens to mirror back to them,
Mhm.
what they're. One of my coaches talks about a loving mirror, and I think that that's kind of how you show up. And I love that phrase, right?
Yes.
And
I don't
that's.
think people I don't think people realize how important that mirror is. I have had so many experiences where I literally just say back the words that my clients have said to me, and they'll be number one, they'll be like, "Wow." Or they will be surprised that they said that, and I'll say to them, "I'm just telling you what you just told me." And they hear it in a totally different way, and they learn something about themselves, because sometimes we just kind of, rattle off, and we're not always very conscious and intentional, right? And
Mhm.
aware of what we're thinking. And so mirroring is huge because it
Right.
really allows people to see themselves in a different way.
Yeah, I think that that is a
Yeah.
great way to think about who in my life can help me see myself
Yes.
in this
Yes.
in this space. Yeah.
Mhm.
So your podcast is where? Where can people
You
listen?
can
And
find it in all the places on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, all the
yeah.
places where podcasts are. It's also housed on my website at Dr. Zoe Shaw.
Okay, great. And
Yeah.
you show up in social media
At the
on.
handle Dr. Zoe Shaw. I'm on Instagram. That's my main jam. That's where I
Okay.
love to hang out.
Okay.
I'm on some of the other platforms, but I'm not very active.
Okay. Okay. That's Instagram is not where I necessarily hang out, but I love people that are there. So I keep
Yeah.
trying to scoot over there a little bit more. Thank you so much for sharing who you are and being
You're
here and being
welcome.
such an open door for me to get started into this kind of
Mm,
public space,
yes.
and I think sometimes we need someone that just allows us to be ourselves and not feel quite so much, you know, ah, when we're
Yes.
first starting to share a little bit of our story. So you've been a great help on my journey to getting this book out, and I greatly appreciate that. So um, make sure to pick up Dr. Zoe's self-care year of self-care too, because that's a great starting point for all of this stuff.
Mm,
So thank you
thank
for
you.
that. Do you have
Thank you.
any books in the works?
I
before we
do.
close?
You know, it's funny because right before we started this interview, I just got a confirmation of an agent.
Ah,
So I've been querying, and I've gotten a couple offers and a couple of proposal requests, but I've chosen my agent. So I'm excited. We will
ah,
be starting this process. So it's my
oh,
memoir, currently titled Reckon with Her, but I don't know that it will stay that way.
mhm.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about this memoir and sharing my own journey with women and really helping them understand the voices and the stories that they've taken from their families of origin into their current lives, and how they can deconstruct that and really change it so that they're showing up in their life and relationships in the way that they want to.
Awesome. Keep me posted
Yeah,
on it. That's great. That
I
sounds
will.
fabulous. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations and good
Thank
luck with
you.
that
Congratulations to
journey.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of my party. Greatly
I'm honored.
appreciated. And we'll be back soon with more party action. So thank you, Zoe.
Yay.
All right.
You're welcome.